So I've had a lot of people ask me how I do my signature portraits, as seen on my website. These portraits are actually digital repaintings of an original image, as you can see on the screen here, and I just use special software to do it. So it's not just what some people might think is just a one-click thing in Photoshop. I know there's some filters in there, but they don't give you nearly the same result. And I'll show you how I get started. So I'm going to open up the software. The software I use is Corel Painter X3. And essentially you have use basically digital tracing paper. And use that with a mixture of different brushes, customized brushes with different textures and features for different parts of the image. So there's a different brush for the hair, different brush for the skin, texture brushes for the clothing, etc. And typically what I do to get started is do an initial cloning of the image, which basically is a special brush that basically retraces the entire photograph from behind, but it's no longer photographic. It's basically digital paint at this point. And then what I do is I take highlights and colors and features from the subject when I'm doing portraits and create a background using some of those colors. So if I take away the tracing paper now, we'll just have, toggle that back in. So I'm taking some colors from his lips to kind of spackle around into the background, leaving some of that green from the grass, taking some of the color from his eyes and just putting it in to create some of those background colors in that layout. Then what I do is I use another brush to kind of blend that in just a little bit more. So it's a totally different brush. Some of the brushes are textured brushes that are cloned. They're basically cloning the background. Other brushes are actual color, using the color palette here. The next step I do is I go to the hair, or go to the clothing, and using a special brush there with certain texture, I will paint in the clothing from the original layer. But it's actually no longer photographic. It's now digital paint with digital texture. My next step is going to the hair, and then I will blend that in, and you can see it's got I've added some highlights and lowlights to the hair there, and blending that in with certain textures from the digital brush. Next I go to the skin, start to paint that in, and so essentially you go from what was the original photograph. Let's just go in here to bridge. The original photograph, and after a number of certain other steps, including highlights and lowlights and adding some texture and some shadows, and just retouching the perimeter of the subject to blend that in real nice, you go from what is essentially a pretty good original image to a nice digital repainting or portrait that just has a little bit more pizzazz than your normal photograph. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, shoot me an email at info@baysmorestudios.com. Thanks.